everyone, it's Anita Lambert, your holistic health physio. And whether you're joining us live or for the replay broadcast, I'm really glad you're here. So today we're going to be talking about common doula questions that a lot of women have. So whether it's about a birth doula, so how they can help during your birth and support you and your family, or postpartum and how they can support your family those first few weeks and months after birth, or how a birth doula works with your doctor or your midwife. Plus, we're going to talk about so much more, including the research of what does the research say about having a doula at your birth. So for those who don't know me, I'm a pelvic health physio, and I've done birth doula training specifically for physiotherapists. So I love working with women prior to pregnancy, during pregnancy, and postpartum to help prevent and restore pelvic floor and core issues, as well as help women prepare their body for birth and a positive birth experience and efficient postpartum recovery. So today I'm super excited to be chatting with Steph Hayes, who is a doula and co-founder of Hello Baby. And unfortunately, her co-owner in terms of Hello Baby, Jen Avis, isn't able to be with us for the entire live broadcast, but she may be chiming in with comments below, so keep an eye out for those. So those who are just joining us, welcome. Please say hi, let us know where you're from. And if you know of any other expecting mothers, please share that we're chatting about these important questions, because a lot of women have these questions about doulas, and it would be great if we could pass along these answers to help them have a supportive birth experience and postpartum experience. So let's jump in. So welcome, Steph.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And so let's start in terms of if you could share your role as well as Jen's role, and where Hello Baby is located and how Hello Baby came to be.
That's a lot. Okay. I will jump in. We would love to have a brick and mortar location eventually, but for right now, we're just online. So we're growing at a lovely pace. We're super excited about it. So you can find us online at www.hellobabyptbo.com. So we're based here in Ptbo. Jen and I are both fertility, postpartum, and birth doulas. So we run the whole gamut from bump to baby and helping people trying to conceive along the way. We offer education as well, so childbirth education classes, breastfeeding classes, and we do some lovely treatments like belly binding and belly casting. And we also make handmade wellness products, which are super exciting. Yeah, so lots going on.
Amazing. And we'll talk a bit more about those wellness products as well. And I know they've been endorsed by some local naturopathic doctors as well, which is pretty amazing.
Yes.
So in terms of, so if we could start, let's start with birth doulas. So how does a birth doula support a mom, expecting mom, and her family during birth?
So when you hire a birth doula, when you hire Hello Baby, you get to meet us throughout your pregnancy as well, which is a really great additional service. So we meet 2 times during your pregnancy. And depending on when you book us, if you book us a little bit earlier in your journey, then you have us to get in touch with, basically. So if you have a question, you can send us a text message or give us a call. If you need a book, you can tap into our resource library. If you went to a doctor appointment and you're not quite sure what they said, or you kind of forget, then we can go over that. So there's a lot of value in those months leading up to your birth. And during our prenatal visits, we work through a birth plan together and we talk about options. And then we also do some comfort measure practices too. So we're helping you prepare for birth. And then during the actual birth itself, you can contact us basically anytime you need us during your birth. If you're really feeling like you need our support in the earlier stages, then you can definitely give us a call and we'll be there for you. Typically, most clients call us sort of in that 511 phase where you're heading into active labor. And then we stay with our clients up until the birth of their baby, and then 2 hours after on average. Basically, like until you get settled in with your baby. If you're breastfeeding, you've got a great latch, and you're all kind of like, okay, now we're going to rest.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the amazing part of having a birth doula, because to have someone there from literally how you're saying, like as soon as you go into labor, you could be calling a doula to come be with you all the way until after birth. And there isn't really anyone else on your care team that is there that whole entire time. So I know personally, having had a doula, as well as a lot of clients who've had doulas, having that kind of continuous support, and that's where we'll talk about the research later, that really is supportive of someone's birth experience. So I think for women to know that literally like you're kind of on call that whole time puts a lot of women at ease about that whole experience. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely, I know from my doula as well, I knew that whenever I needed her to be there, that she would be there. And Jen was my doula. So I was fortunate enough to have Jen. And that she was going to be there. If I didn't want her to leave, she wouldn't leave. If I needed her to go and get something, she would do all the things. It was just a full trust that she would be there for me the whole time. Yeah.
Amazing. And then we'll talk a bit about, so you mentioned a birth doula is there kind of for, a few hours after birth till you settle in. And so when does a birth doula do postpartum visits? And then also, where does a postpartum doula fit into the picture?
Yeah, good question. So as with your birth doula services, we do one postpartum follow-up. So within usually a week after you've had your baby, kind of depending on how things are going, we'll come into your home and sit down with you, usually chat about your birth and debrief, which is great because you don't always have someone to talk about your birth with, especially in such great detail with someone who is there, right? So it's quite nice. It's nice for me too. I like to go over birth. And then a postpartum doula would kind of step in right after that. So you would hire a postpartum doula for a day shift or a night shift. We have special packages to help you kind of navigate what that would look like. And postpartum doula can help with a whole gamut of things. Can help you with breastfeeding, bottle feeding, can help you get some sleep. On overnight shifts, we help rock your baby to sleep so that you can sleep when your baby's hungry. We bring your baby to you, get you a cup of tea, grab you some water, fluff your pillows, whatever you need to be comfortable and be successful as a parent. We do a lot of troubleshooting and navigating, and sometimes we look after older siblings as well. So we help them figure out their new role in the family. I once made a whole knight's costume out of cardboard for a little guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, while wearing his sister so his mom could have a shower and check her emails and just have some me time, which was great. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I could see Jen chimed in. Hey, Jen. And I think that's really great to know, because I think sometimes women I've spoken with think, okay, postpartum doula is really for that first time parent who's adjusting to have a newborn. But like you mentioned, Steph, even if it's your second, third, fourth, it's always a new change. It's something new for the whole family in terms of it's, life has changed again. So to have someone be able to help you adjust, and also in terms of so many other things, whether if you're nursing after, or, there's so many different things that it's not necessarily the same after every baby. So I think having a postpartum doula is just, again, gives you that comfort and confidence to know, making those changes and having someone help you along the way. So that's pretty awesome. And so, yeah, I'm curious in terms of, and if you can share Jen's side of it as well, why you both decided to become doulas.
Yeah. For myself, I think it was probably after the birth of my first. It was a hospital birth. It didn't quite go as planned. We didn't have any family or friends with us at all. We were living in a different province at the time. And after my son was born, both my partner and I felt really in shock for a while. I would say at least a couple of weeks. And I didn't want anyone else to go through that again. I didn't want anyone else to feel alone in the birthing process and not know what's going to happen to their body. Super passionate about sharing information about our bodies, because I think it's just wild that there's so much that we don't know, which is why I loved coming to see you and learning more about my own body too. So that's definitely where my first kind of inkling of birthiness happened. And then I'm a photographer as well. And I started doing birth photography after my daughter was born here in Ptbo. And that really made me want to be a doula because I wanted to help more. I would photograph and kind of like hang out on the fringes, and I just wanted to come in there a little bit more and help people. And I just knew that like that was my calling for sure. And in terms of Jen, I think Jen's trained as a postpartum doula first, and her passion for postpartum care came from her own experience with having a difficult time breastfeeding with her daughter and experiencing some PPD and working through that. So I think that definitely, again, she wanted to share. She didn't want anyone else to have this experience without someone to guide you through it and provide you with resources. And there's a huge gap in our community, I think, for some of these things. So we're both really, really passionate about sharing. Yeah. Sharing and helping. Yeah.
Exactly. And I've worked with both Jen and Steph, and in terms of with their clients, and they do a fantastic job. And I think that's a really great point to bring up, that if you're looking for a doula in your community, it's likely that there's been some personal experience, or they've been affected by birth in a certain way. And that's really kind of led them to that passion. So I've never met a doula who isn't passionate about what they do. So just knowing that when you work with a doula, they have sense of training. We'll talk a bit more about that later, but also their experience, whether giving birth themselves, but also attending other births as well. So awesome. And so you're mentioning in terms of as a birth doula, so you'll see women, you mentioned a couple times during pregnancy before birth.
Yes, 2 visits. Yeah. And that can be in home, or we can meet at a coffee shop, kind of wherever you're comfortable. Yeah.
And then after birth, are there a certain amount, or can women kind of choose how often they want you to come in?
Yeah, we do that one follow-up shift, and then you could definitely add on postpartum shifts after that. And it's tailored to your needs and your family's needs, which is something Jen and I are also super passionate about. We're never locked into like a certain style of birthing or a certain style of parenting. It's supporting families to make the choices that make them feel good and work for them. Yeah. Perfect.
And then in terms of the benefits of having a doula, so especially having a birth doula, so that idea of a continuous labor support, continuous care. Can you explain a bit in terms of what the research has said, or kind of the most recent things that have come out in terms of the benefits of having a birth doula?
Yeah, definitely. There's been some great information lately about the benefits of having a birth doula. So you're up to 50% less likely to have a cesarean birth, which is great. 60% less likely to request having an epidural. And I think that's just talking about, we're offering different types of comfort measures, trying to, if that's your goal, to have a natural vaginal birth, then we're going to help you get there. Having up to 25% shorter labor, which is, always a plus. And you're 40% less likely to have or to ask for any augmentation during birth. So even like, needing to have your water broken with a doula, you're less likely to have that happen. You're more likely to establish and continue a breastfeeding relationship, which is great. And if you are sort of on the spectrum for perhaps having a postpartum mood disorder, we can help guide your family to help you through that and guide your family to the right resources. And with a doula, you're a lot less likely to develop a postpartum mood disorder as well. So, yeah.
No, I think it's amazing kind of the research out there going in that direction to support it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. And like you mentioned as well, I think some women have want to have a natural birth or a home birth or a certain type of birth to have a doula. But I think it's great that you brought up, Steph, that it's any type of birth. So I know women who knew going in that they were going to have a cesarean birth and they wanted a birth doula. Because having a doula there's the physical side, but the emotional side as well, right? And in terms of the mom, but also for the partner. So
yes,
even women where it's, their second or third or fourth birth, and they know that their partner has been there for the previous births, but they still know that having that emotional support for both of them will just benefit the family as a whole. So I think that's a great point to bring up. There's not a certain type of birth that you need to be picturing to have a doula. A doula is there and should be there to support your preferences and to educate you on the different options. And then during birth, reminding you of those preferences or options and advocating. So yeah.
And that's, I would say, with my birth photography and as a birth doula, like 90% of the time, the dads in the room or the other partners or some of the other family members are like, okay, I get it now. Yeah. I totally get why you're here. I'm so glad we did this. They're always a little hesitant at first, but then even in our first meeting, they're like, okay, I can see why this will be helpful. But during the birth, it's always, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were here. And we talk about that a lot in all of our classes and all of the work that we do is that, it's not just the birthing person who's having a baby. It's the whole family is welcoming a new baby. And birth is happening to two people or your extended family as well, new grandparents. So it's not just one person.
Exactly. I just want to point out, so Anna, hi Anna, thanks. You said you would have loved to have a natural birth and will for sure have a doula if I ever have another baby. So that's amazing. Awesome. And I think that's so common too, that women maybe kind of the first time going into birth, they're not aware of all the benefits of having a doula. And then after their experience, they realize, you know what? If there's a next time, I do want that extra support. I do see the benefit in it. So that's amazing.
Yes.
And then that brings me to one of the most common questions I have, and clients I see who have a midwife as their main care provider is, what is the difference between a midwife and a doula? Because I think not everyone understands that there's a difference, and women are like, is there a benefit in having a both? Should I bother having a doula? Like, doesn't my midwife do the same thing? So if you can share, Steph, kind of what the differences are, and that if you feel like there's a benefit in having both.
Yeah, definitely. Midwives are amazing people, and I love working with them, and I loved having them as my care provider as well. But they are there for the medical side of birth. So they're physically checking on you. They're not so much there for the emotional support. Of course, because they're awesome people, they're definitely going to provide you with emotional support, but their main focus is making sure medically that you are okay and the baby is okay. They're also there's two midwives at a midwife birth. One is for the birthing mama and one is for the baby. And that's their focus. That's their goal. So there's no one there for the rest of the people in the room as well. And they have to focus on what they have to do. So having a doula there works with the whole team and helps you stay calm and focused. And as the midwives are doing their thing, a doula can explain, okay, this is what she's doing. This is why she's doing it. Do you sometimes we can advocate on behalf of our clients and ask midwives, can you explain this to our client if they're not so sure or not prepared to even ask? So we work super well together, but we definitely have very different roles. Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that the midwife will be there, like rubbing their back and helping them breathe, but they're not. Not always anyway. Yeah.
And that's what I end up telling clients as well, kind of that idea of, if there's the choice where the midwife has to check your vitals and baby's vitals, so like heart rate and blood pressure and everything, or do a hip squeeze to help during a surge or a contraction, they're going to be checking your vitals. So to have a doula there, like you're there to, again, that physical support kind of the whole time, and as well also give the partner a bit of a break too if you kind of tag team if it is a longer labor. So I know my husband appreciated that and having some guidance as well from our naturopathic doula. So definitely from experience, but then also clients tell me the same thing. And just wanted to bring up in terms of Jen wrote, I can't even add anything because Steph Hayes is taking the words right out of my mouth. So I think Steph's doing an awesome job as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
Awesome. so in terms of that, kind of goes into the next question really well. So how does a doula work together with a mother's doctor or midwife during a birth? So explain a bit about kind of the different roles, but in terms of even kind of the advocacy side, or you were mentioning kind of the communication side between the mom and the care provider, if you can expand a bit on that, just so that everyone kind of understands how you work together, because it really is a team approach. It's not that the doula is there as this kind of separate person, right? That you're bringing everyone together to increase that communication.
Yeah, definitely. I think every time Jen and I attend a birth, the more births we attend, the more staff we know. So it becomes much easier. But if we don't know people in the room, we're always introducing ourselves, telling them that we are their doula, and that if we ever get in the way, let us know. So I think we ease their fears immediately that this person is not going to be in our way, that this person is going to work with us. So we work super well with nurses, super well with midwives, and OBs when they come into the space as well. And like the advocacy piece, I think, is big. So as a care provider is offering an option to augment labor, let's say, so water breaking or adding a Pitocin or something like that, we can help our clients. We have a little cheat sheet. There's an acronym called BRAIN, and so we help our clients brain it, which just means ask questions about what's going on. And so depending on the dynamic in the room, we can ask those questions ourselves, like so that the answer kind of comes into the room, or we can be like, hey, client, remember that you were curious about this? You should ask. So it just depends on like the energy in the room, basically, as to how much we can ask on behalf of the client. But we're very good at helping our clients advocate for themselves too. And we can ask for, can we have 5 minutes to talk about this, and help to give some time to chat about it just between the mom and the partner, right? So that's a big piece, I think, because when you have a midwife or a doctor or a nurse, you feel like they're this big authority figure, and you can't tell them no, or you can't tell them to go away or give you space. Even though they would gladly do that for you. So in that moment when things are super intense and you're experiencing contractions, your doula can step in and say, hey, can we have 5 minutes? Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point to going into birth, not necessarily in that side of the brain that they're able to remember to ask those questions, or to feel that, in terms of they're kind of so in the moment with what's happening, that to have a doula there as a reminder, like you said, reminder of those preferences, see if those still are the preferences, and to also remind the care provider that this is, what the laboring mom had previously liked. So I think that's fantastic to kind of bridge that communication.
Yeah, I think if I said it better, I guess I would say that we help you meet your goals. We're there to remind you of your goals, and your care provider sees, like, if it's a nurse that's helping you, they're seeing 4 other patients at the same time as you. So they're not necessarily going to remember your birth goals, right? Whereas we have them at top of mind, because that's all we're concerned about in that moment is you and your goals and helping you achieve them.
Amazing. Awesome. And then just so we can get to know you and Jen a little bit more, so what type of training is involved with becoming a doula? And then what was the training that both you and Jen did to become doulas?
Yeah, Jen studied as a postpartum doula previously it's called the Healing Arts Learning Organization. And so when you train as a doula, there's sort of 3 components. There's an in-class or online training component, then there's a self-study portion, and then a practical component of working with clients. So Jen and I both trained with an organization called Ebook, which we really loved, and they're based in Toronto. And we also have certified with a few other organizations for our different services. So we've worked with ProDoula to certify for our childbirth educator certificate. And Jen has certified with another organization for her, I can't remember that, meaning of the acronym, but Jen, you can post it in the comments, for placenta encapsulation. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of them out there. And it's kind of just finding what a good fit for you is and who you like and where you want your doula business to go to. So Bagel Meal was a great fit for us. And that's how we both took the training together too, which was nice.
Awesome. And then what would you say, what's kind of one key item that you would have in your kind of doula bag, whether you're going to a birth or to a postpartum visit? What would be one key thing you would have?
I like to, one that spans both, I would say, I guess, is my woven wrap is something I always pack. It's great for doing those hip squeezes and helping instead of using your arms like this for hours and hours. It's a great little cheat that we teach people. And then for postpartum shifts, I can wear all the babies. I can use it as a blanket, which I've done before. It's super versatile. So I always have that on hand. And then more recently, I would say some massage oil as well. I used it a lot in my last birth, and it was really lovely to do. It was just gentle, like light touch that the mom needed. And we needed some massage oil after a while. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And then in terms of what would be, so I wanted to ask kind of what your favorite birth affirmation is, but I know I used them a lot in my birth and found them extremely helpful getting through labor, but not everyone knows actually what a birth affirmation is. So if you could explain a bit about that and then share maybe either the favorite one that you used in your birth or that you find you kind of repeatedly use with other births and find it really helpful.
So birth affirmation is something that it's like a phrase or sometimes even an image that you can keep going back to through every contraction or every time you're struggling or you need a boost to get through. It's often, a couple words. So some of the ones that I love are about like letting go or breathing, because I think those are so key for me, and that seems to be like the biggest hurdle is to surrender into a contraction, and to let go of the tension and the fear. And so I use those two kind of together to help clients just like relax as much as possible to get that breath back and to gain as much control and calm as you can through a contraction, which is really hard. But if you can put them around your birth space, even in a hospital, you can put things up on the wall, just bring some painter's tape or something, and put them in key spaces like the mirror in the bathroom or above the hospital bed. So if you're like doing all fours, it's right there through every contraction. And even leading up to birth too, if you're nervous about birth, they're really good to just have in your bedroom or in that like safe space that you have, and you can start practicing with them and just read them over, take some deep breaths, and just internalize what your goals are. And my goal was to try and let go and surrender as much as possible. Yes.
I think that's amazing, and how you can really kind of tailor your affirmations, how you're saying to kind of what you're looking for. And I think it's great too, because using birth affirmations in kind of however way you absorb things. So I've heard of that before in terms of having the cards and doing it that way, or having it in your phone. Like everyone has their phone on them nowadays. So whether it's you have a special, app or a note section. I know I took hypnobirthing. So there's kind of a recording, I guess, called the Rainbow Relaxation. And it's just all affirmations. So I would listen to that constantly, like going to sleep every night. And then I had it going through the latter part of labor. So for a lot of women, like figure out in terms of what resonates with you in terms of how to use those birth affirmations, because they can be quite beneficial. Or having your doula or your partner recite them to you during labor can be great as well. So finding how they can work for you is fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely, I think a lot of people think they're like really like hippy dippy too, like birth affirmations, but you'll be surprised what you gravitate to and what actually does resonate with you in that moment. Even in my last birth, I was listening to like a YouTube a sort of hypnobirthing thing. And it was super flowery, but it really worked for me. And I love flowery stuff too, but I thought that was too far on the spectrum. But it really did. In that moment when I needed it, it was so helpful.
Yeah. No, I'd say talking to a lot of women, it's one of those things where you may not think it's going to work for you, and for some women it may not be, and you always want to be going into birth taking those tools that work for you, right? So check out some birth affirmations, see if that might be something that helps your next birth. And just checking, hi Hannah saying hi. And Darylyn, I hope I'm saying your name right. She says, definitely getting a doula next time. I felt so out of my head while in labor, and it would have been great to have someone in the room who could help to advocate and support me and my family. This is super helpful. And awesome. I think that's fantastic. And kind of gaining this knowledge ahead of time, that's why I really encourage anyone watching to really share this information or share this video with other expecting moms, because a lot of women have no idea all of the benefits of having a doula. And there's so many doulas now, like every community generally will have access to a doula. So really I encourage you to check that out if after listening to this you feel like, a doula can really help my birth or postpartum experience. Hi Jen. Awesome. And also I wanted to ask, what's one key thing you do before going to a birth? So you may have a certain kind of routine you do, or certain things you make sure get done before going to a birth, especially not knowing how long you may be away. So I'm curious, kind of something that you do, particularly Steph, and Jen, feel free to write it in as well.
I definitely have like a birth backpack. So it's super mobile, and I pack it with snacks and I pack it with water, which is really helpful because you don't know how long you're going to be. You don't know if you're going to be in one spot or you're going to be transferring to another place. So in terms of just surviving through, that's my survival backpack. And then other than like, I get really excited when clients text me and tell me they're in labor. So I had to ground myself a little bit. So I use like essential oils sometimes, or we have some really great aromatherapy sprays that are lovely. And I just kind of like take a moment, do some deep breaths, and I'm excited, but I'm like ready to work as well. So awesome. Yeah, it's helpful.
Amazing. And what would you say, would you say it's similar then, I guess, going to a postpartum kind of first time where you're going to be with the family after birth? If you weren't there for the birth, is it kind of a similar idea, or would you say anything's different?
I would say it's different. I'm super excited, but I think I'm like ready to help in a different way. Because birth is so different and happens, but it happens on like, a general flow usually of, first comes this, then comes that, and then we're into pushing and whatever. But postpartum is just, it's whatever the family needs. So I think I just go in really open-minded and ready to like listen. I think a lot of the postpartum work that we do is just really listening to our clients and giving them someone to talk to. And that's usually a really huge support for people. And then we go from there. So it's a little bit more of being open to whatever is going to come at me and just being prepared with like multiple resources too. So that one guy that I made the knight's costume for, I would bring like my craft box. So I'd pack different things for postpartum shifts. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I just want to mention kind of what Jen commented here. She says she does all the practical things, and then before getting into her car to head out, she always does some breathing and have a look through her client's file to center her mind on them and their goals. And then so she's walking with a strong attitude and connection. So I love how you both prepare to go into whether it's a birth or a postpartum visit, because it really gives confidence to that expecting or new mom or seasoned mom and their family. So again, anyone who's watching and you're considering having a doula, just knowing that this, what Jen and Steph are talking about, all doulas kind of prepare in this way and go into these visits this way. So just so that everyone's kind of aware how that all works. Amazing. So in terms of anyone who's watching now live or during the replay, feel free to leave questions below. I'll make sure that Jen and Steph have access to them to answer them, or any questions that you'd like me to answer. So thanks so much, Steph, for sharing all this info with so many expecting moms. And so how can people connect with you and Jen, and how can they find you online?
Yeah, so we, on all of our social media, we are at Hello Baby Ptbo, and you can find our website at www, there we go, hellobabyptbo.com. We also have an online Facebook group for Ptbo peeps and anyone in the surrounding community called Bump to Baby. It has, I'd say, almost 1,200 members now. It's a great space to post questions to your peers, to look for information, to find your doula. We have birth affirmations up there as well, and the photo albums. So you can find us there too. And then in the community, we work with Play Cafe in their mom group. So we do one of their weekly mom group visits, and we talk about birth stories. And we try to go to as many mom meetups as we can to connect with everyone in Peterborough. Yeah, so we are out there too, online and in real life. Yeah,
awesome. And I'll make sure that I include attach this. So in the comments, I'll make sure all the contact info for Steph and Jen is available. So anyone who's out there who wants to get a hold of them and use their services, I highly recommend. And they have amazing doula services, and they also have fantastic childbirth classes, prenatal classes. I've had a lot of clients attend as well, and I've heard kind of what's all included in the classes, and I would say that they're very valuable, and there's a lot of important information that isn't necessarily in other classes. So I highly recommend checking them out. Plus they have Pumping 101. They've got so many classes to help expecting a new mom. So please, I would definitely recommend checking them out, and both of them are a wealth of knowledge, and as you can tell, super passionate about it. So that's fantastic. And today the focus was talking about doulas, birth doulas and postpartum doulas, and it definitely is one of my top tips to give to clients to prepare for a positive birth experience. And I'll include as well below a free resource guide that I've created that includes 6 other tips that I recommend and use myself to have a positive birth experience. So I'll make sure to include that up below. So please check that out. You'll find a lot of great resources in it. So thanks again for everyone for joining. And stay tuned for future Facebook Lives about all things in terms of preparing for birth, as well as during pregnancy, postpartum, how to help in terms of your pelvic health as well. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.
Bye.
Awesome.